All right, so good morning and welcome to today's class. Today is a Saturday, a holy Saturday, of course, and I wish you all well. Let's all keep the day holy as it is. Now, back to our lesson for today: essential professional skills. Last week we looked at the background to essential professional skills, and from today forward, we'll be looking at the various standards. What are the standards in the essential skills, or the standard that the essential skills exam is framed on? What are the standards seek that teachers know and do? And this is going to be full of scenarios. In fact, if you want to follow as per the slide, you may not really get the impulse of it. But I'll do my best to draw every scenario out of any of the points that the standard is actually talking about, so that by the end of today's lesson you should have a very good and a very comprehensive idea about how questions will be coming out from each of the various scenarios that we shall be looking at. Bear in mind, we have said from before that essential professional skills is all about the national teaching standards. So I will drop the book to the page. This is the national teaching standard. That is how it looks like. That is the book. Yeah. So I have a soft copy of this book I would put on the page, but the hard copy is actually hard to find unless the council's office, and I'm not sure you'll be able to get it. So that is what the standard is all about. Now we're going to look at what does the standard require of teachers for them to know and be able to do. So let's see the way forward. Now, last week when we were looking at the standards, we said there are three standards: professional values and attitudes, professional knowledge, professional practice. So on today we're going to be looking at professional values and attitudes. But before, a quick recap of what we learned last week. What are the standards? So the standards are the guidelines for teaching and teaching ethics, teaching control, etc. in the country, Ghana. And then why were these standards developed? Now, the standards were developed to bring uniformity between what the colleges of education were giving onto their product or teachers they were training, and also what the universities were also doing as universities that were into education. The country realized there was a bit of differences, so then there was a need for there to be that standardization, that uniformity, that generalization of what we expect teachers to be able to know and process. Therefore, the council was set up to pair the two practices of the various teacher training institutions, either the training college or the college of education, and that of the people from the university. And also, the standard also developed following a review of the international teaching standards. So worldwide, there was a change in how teaching ethics, teaching standards should be, and therefore Ghana, as one of the countries that forced part of a member of the international body, decided to also make this a reason for them to equally implement a change in the standards that of teaching that we expect teachers to know and be able to process. Who are the standards developed for? Now, the standards are developed for everyone, for all teachers. So last week we saw pre-service teachers, that is a teacher who is still in the college and is yet to be fully recruited to start working. So he's a pre-service teacher. We also have in-service teachers, that is teachers already on the field and they are teaching. Now, aside all of these people, the standards are also developed for the council. So the council would have a yardstick on which, or a benchmark to which it would assess teachers. Now, also for TVET institutions, because they have teachers there, and then there should be a guide for them as well. Now, the standard also helps colleges and also universities, because they are those training teachers to come out. So they must train them based on the standard, so that everything is in line with how the goal of the nation and where the nation wants to get to. Next, what are the legal backends that underpins the standards? So we saw from last week that the standards have a very strong legal backing. passed by an Act of Parliament, Act 2008, Act 778. Now, what philosophy underpin the standards? So, the philosophy that underpin the standards are that teachers would have the spirit of inquiry, innovation, have that values and attitudes, and all those embodiments. These are the general philosophies that underpin the formation of the standard. So, let's get ready for today's lesson: professional values and attitudes. Now, by the end of today's lesson, you should be able to, by your own, critically and collectively reflect on the ways to improve teaching and learning. So, as a professional teacher, or in today's lesson, what we expect you to know and do is that, given a particular question, given a particular exam question, given a particular scenario, you should be able to critically and collectively reflect. So, a key thing that you're going to be talking about is called reflection. Reflection. So, what is reflection? Also, you should be able to realize the need to improve upon your personal and professional. So, improvement in your personal and professional development. So, the standard is saying that as a professional teacher, you should seek for various ways to advance yourself personally. So, you must seek personal development as a teacher. At the same time, you must also seek for professional development. And many a time, these professional developments will take place through in-service trainings and a whole lot. So it's going to take place through lifelong learning. Now, lifelong learning is one of the principles in teacher education. That is lifelong learning. Now, when we say lifelong learning, what does it simply mean? Lifelong, it means that all the days of your life you should be learning as a professional teacher. So sometimes a few questions will be coming out of this, which would make them exposed, so that when you sit by the paper, you should be able to grasp every content that comes along with it, as well as continuous professional development. So lifelong learning is a personal effort as well. So that way you do, the teacher does that by himself, and continuous professional development are often done collectively by the school, by the GES, by the ministry, to train teachers, to orient teachers, so that they would also upgrade, advance professionally. Next is, you should be able to adopt effective leadership growing qualities in a classroom. So the standard also requires of teachers that you should be able to build leadership qualities among your students. So we're looking at various ways that can be done, and this is something you have a fair idea about. So we are by this trying to draw your attention to various key element areas that when you have your ideas brought back to thought, you realize now these are very cool areas that when you sit by the paper, you should be able to understand and fully pass the exam with ease. So we're looking at a bit of leadership. So what is leadership? What leadership qualities do we know of? What leadership styles do we know of? And all those things. But with special focus in the classroom, and the wider school, not outside. We're also going to look at leadership not as teacher leadership per se, but leadership growing qualities. That is, our leadership here would not concern you, the teacher, becoming a leader, but rather how you would be able to pick your students, you pick your learners, and grow them to become leaders. That is what a standard acts of teachers should be able to do. Now we should be, or you should be able to also apply and abide by the legal and ethical teaching codes of conduct. So we'll be looking at a few codes on conduct, how teachers must behave professionally. Next, we should be able to engage positively with colleagues, learners, parents, etc., and wider community actually. So teacher engagement, how well do you relate with parents? How well do you relate to your fellow colleagues? How well do you relate to your learners? All these are what a standard requires of you. Also, you should be able to develop a positive teacher identity and serve as a role model. So as a professional teacher, you must be able to develop a very strong teacher identity. It should be a very positive one. It should be noted for things that are worthy enough. It should be noted for things that are ill practices. So as well as you serving as a role model, So must serve as a role model. Now, as a you should be able to equally act as an agent of change. Agent of change. That is, if there is a need for something to take place in a community, you should, as a teacher, be able to contribute as someone who knows a lot and is helping in that regard. So, from what we expect you should be able to know and grasp by the end of today's lesson, here are a few topics that can be drawn out of it. One is ways to improve teaching and learning, the concept of lifelong learning and continuous professional development. We're going to look at leadership and responsibility. We're going to look at delegation, authority, and accountability. Now, a few do's and don'ts of a teacher. Then teacher relationships. How do you relate to your parents, teachers, colleagues, learners, etc. Then teacher as a role model. Then finally, teacher as agent of change. So, let's begin with what are the ways to improve teaching and learning. Now, that is how the standard and the exam would be like. The exam would always give you a particular classroom-based scenario. Now, in that classroom-based scenario, a teacher is supposed to be able to improve upon his teaching and learning. Now, the standard or the question will ask you that amongst A, B, C, and D, which one of the following is the best way the teacher can develop professionally? Please, I want you to get a full idea of it first before you continue. So, in the exam, the questions that would come and would surround ways to improve teaching and learning. What I'm saying is simple. What I'm saying is that questions would be given. Now, the question would be in a story or a scenario, a classroom-based scenario, and the question is actually demanding of you that amongst the alternatives lettered A to D, which one of the following would best help a teacher in, say, Sokoban MAGHS to improve upon his teaching and learning? Now, all the points I've listed for you are all ways teachers can advance and develop professionally. Now, it is possible that in the exam, you would get about all four or any of the four listed above. Now, please, when it happens that way, the scenario of the question, the story of the question, the case study the question is coming from, is what will inform you of what should be the right answer. So, let's look at them. 1. Reflective practice. So, remember we said about reflection earlier. Now, that is where reflection takes place. Now, reflection can take place before a lesson. It can take place during a lesson or after a lesson. Now, these are the real life situations, how it happens. So, it is possible that while you are teaching a particular class, let's say you are teaching them photosynthesis, then that's how you're explaining it. That refers to the process where plants prepare their own food. And just explain that way. Well, then as you are talking as a teacher, you realize that several thoughts will be also running through your mind, and it's like your mind is communicating to you that no, you should have said it this way and not that way. And when you do that, as you think of that thoroughly in your mind while you are talking, it is called reflective during the lesson. So during the lesson, you are reflecting on what you are teaching, and that is reflection during the lesson. Now, this very thing I've spoken of, it can also happen at the end of the lesson. A typical scenario is that a teacher who teaches class A, or let's say class 5A, and also teach class 5B, it is very possible or very likely that after teaching class 5A, before you get to class 5B to teach the same lesson, while you are waiting in the staff room, you could realize, no, how I really explained today's class, how I explained today's lesson to the people, I could have done it better if I said this or that. Now, when you do that, it means you are engaging what we call reflection, reflective practice, and that is taking place after the lesson. Now, reflection can also take place before the lesson, and more especially for every teacher, before you teach, you realize you need to prepare a lesson plan or a lesson note. Now, in the lesson plan, you detail how you're going to deliver your lesson. But right before you deliver the lesson, you could say, no, I think I should go about the thing this way in your own mind. So when you do that, it's called reflection or reflective practice. So as a professional teacher, you are supposed to be able to use reflection to advance yourself professionally and personally. So that is with reflective practice. It's a very good way for you to where you do not really have to consult other people. That is the best way for you to handle how you upgrade upon your lessons. Now next is peer review. So more especially for pre-service teachers, you realize there is sometimes you have to be in what we call community of practice or practical or internship or sometimes attachment. Then you be with other colleagues than you are in a particular school. Now the standard is saying that your peers, your fellow teachers can review what you are teaching. So sometimes you often see this in on-campus teaching practices. So you will teach, then your colleagues would say, here you did very well, superb, that was marvelous. Here you need to improve. They help you identify your strengths and your weaknesses. Now, sometimes too in teaching, there is a need for you to engage in peer review among your fellow teachers. So, at what point would that be needed? The story, the scenario, the case the question would bring would rather tell you where the peer review will be near that point or not. Next is mentor supervision. So before you actually become an in-service an in-service teacher, during the pre-service teaching stage, this is very common because sometimes you go on off-campus teaching practice, or that's what many people call it. So you go to off-campus, then you be assigned a supervisor that he would come and also supervise how you are teaching, pass critique, give you comments, identify your strengths and weakness, help you polish and shaping up your teaching skills. So at what point would a mentor supervision be very important to help a teacher to grow or advance? All these things would be best captured by the case you'll be looking at, the case by the question. So after here, we look at a few questions and we see which one is the best for you to choose as an answer. You also have group review that is similar to the peer review, and that would often take place perhaps in the staff, and you discuss with the other colleague teachers. Now next is what we call continuous study. So as a teacher, you can develop professionally and personally when you yourself you engage in continuous study. You must read a lot, research a lot. Now when you do this, it helps you to also improve upon your teaching. So research has been mentioned. You should be able to know how to use the internet to find out new information. Be always up to the task. You should not be someone who teaches from books or manuals prepared centuries back or decades back. You should be current, should be on point all the time. And these are ways you can also improve upon your practice. Now, you should as well be able to critique your own practice. So as a professional teacher, you can develop when you criticize your own self. So you could just after a very good reflection, you should be able to tell that this thing you did was superb, this was very poor, this was very abysmal, it should not be repeated. Now, there should be an urgency in improving learning. So as a teacher, you should also be able to improve learning of your students. How do you do that? You should act more of an agent to facilitate, or so to put it this way, when you act as a very good facilitator, you're able to now facilitate the learning of your students. And that is a way to you can also improve both teaching and learning. But here, for special emphasis on learning. Also, we have the sometimes with a peer mentor or a group of teachers, which has already been quite explained before. So all these are ways you can also improve upon yourselves. Now, we said number 2 is what the concept we call lifelong learning. Bear in mind, lifelong learning is one of the ways you can also improve upon your practice and attending various CPDs. Now, here questions can be asked on knowledge level, knowledge base. What do you know about lifelong learning? What do you know about CPD? So sometimes the question could come on this area, but I would want to cover what is the relevance of CPD for teachers. So the question could be in the scenario that a teacher in a particular school sees no need to attend in-service training because he knows that, or he believes that the same thing that was said centuries or years ago are the same thing going to repeat. So he sees no need for him to attend. Or the scenario would be like a teacher teaches very well, he's the best teacher, he won the best teacher award, etc. So this teacher feels that there is no need for him to attend an in-service training. Is he right or wrong? These are how knowledge-based questions around this very topic would be like. So a few things you should also know in addition to this very lesson is that you should be able to identify the gap in knowledge. So when you engage in lifelong learning, you learn every day, you should be able to know that no, there is a gap in here. Just as you try to do identify a gap in someone's research or criticize someone's work. So you try to identify the gap in knowledge of your learners. So in a particular school, in a particular class, you realize that they are good, although when it comes to this very area, they seem to have a very shallow idea about. So you should be able to learn every day, learn always, so that you will be able to identify the gap inside either the textbook or the syllabus or your own teaching practice. Now, you must engage in lifelong learning so that you can go beyond the textbook. Now, going beyond the textbook here, there are two very phases. The first phase is that you should not go beyond the textbook and teach something that is non-syllabus. We often call it non-syllabus. So you should go beyond the textbook and not teach something that is actually non-syllabus. At the same time, too, you should go beyond the textbook and teach what the standard, what a curriculum has prescribed you do. Sometimes the curriculum is designed, but the textbooks or the manuals you'll be using may not have been able to cover or have a very good idea, a very good subject control of the topic in there. So as a professional teacher, you should be able to go beyond the textbook and help your learners to be able to really understand the lesson for the day. You should not always be focused on using textbooks and also writing notes from the same textbook little to the board. It's a very bad practice. So questions can come in all these scenarios. Like a teacher is always writing the same notes from the textbook to the board, and students are complaining the whole lot. What should the teacher do? Is he right to do that, etc.? It's very interesting. These are some of the questions you'll be seeing in your exam. As well, carry self-study through library. So should engage in lifelong learning. As a teacher, you must learn till you die, or you retire, or even go after retirement. So learn till you die. So go to the libraries, go to the internet, consult experienced colleagues. So here in the past question, you have almost a question repeated every year. It's like this. So it's been said a teacher is having some difficulty teaching a particular lesson. What should he do? A, he should consult an experienced teacher. 2, he should go to the library or the internet cafe and do his own research. 3, you should look at various lessons people have prepared from ages and also try to adopt their methodologies they use to teach. Or 3, you should consult someone from outside, or you should consult or you should engage in reflective practice. So among these 4 alternatives, which one is the best answer for you to choose? Teacher wants to advance, he wants to teach a particular lesson, finding some difficulties. What should he do? Consult an experienced teacher, do research on his own, engage in reflective practice, and what have you. So back to that, you have what we call item analysis, analyzing the question. So the scenario or the word of the question will tell which one should actually be the right answer. So I'll help you later for you to analyze every question to identify the clue in the question that will give you the key to the answer. Also, you should be able to attend CPDs, attend continuous professional development, attend in-service training. And not only that, when you attend them, you should apply the new lessons, the new knowledge you have gained in your everyday teaching. That is what our second subtopic has got to do. So I hope you have everything off head and you should be able to apply these things in answering the exam. Now the next subtopic we're learning is leadership, authority, delegation, accountability, and responsibility. Now, bear in mind what the standard is requiring of us is not for us to go and learn what is leadership and all those things. The standard is saying that as a professional teacher, you should be able to pick and develop leadership qualities in your learners. So the question can be, A teacher has appointed students to become the class prefect, board monitor, um, board cleaner. Why is the teacher doing this? A is like he's lazy around, he doesn't want to do his work. B is saying that he's delegating his work to the students. Um, 3 is saying that he's developing leadership qualities among the students. So A, B, and C, which one do you think is the answer? When happening, this the teacher is trying to develop leadership qualities among the students. However, on this same note, bear in mind you should know when teacher is trying to shrink responsibility and push them to students. Example, based on this very principle, a question is given that teacher has now made his learners, the best students among them, to always be writing lesson notes on his behalf. Now, if you're not careful, you might think this is trying to be delegation. Please no, this is a bad practice. It should not be done. What happens is that we should be able to indicate that there is a bad practice, and that should not be the answer in any case, or that should not be the real situation in any case. So when the teacher identifies students, helps them to grow in various leadership positions, assign leadership roles to learners in his class, then he's building their leadership roles. Now next is leadership styles. Now we all know the 3 fundamental leadership styles: democratic, laissez-faire, autocratic. Now I would add one to that is paternalistic. Now in the paternalistic leadership style, the teacher acts more of a parent to the children or to the students, and so he gets involved personally. And sometimes when in a very real life scenario, you realize at a point in time you may not be able to apply autocratic style on your learners. You may not be able to apply democratic style on them. A laissez-faire is worse. So in any given case, in a real exam case, laissez-faire should not always be considered unless the question is promoting laissez-faire. That maybe the teacher is not concerned about the learners, what leadership style the teacher possesses, then that's fine. But if not, when you're looking for leadership style to control the behavior of learners, it should never be laissez-faire. And when it comes to control of students' behavior, it can't also be autocratic, because when autocratic style, when you demonstrate that, there is likely to be a rebel from the students. And when the students are so much difficult to handle, if you apply democratic tool, they may not really respond to you. They may see you to be like them. They may not give you the regard as possible. And when happens that way, then the paternalistic leadership style comes in as a best fit, because teacher goes beyond he being the teacher and more of a parent to the child and tries to do everything possible best to do emotionally, psychologically, to help the child. That is with the paternalistic style. Now, under leadership skills, we have various leadership skills. We have the human skills, we have the technical skills, we have the conceptual skills. As a teacher, you're supposed to know all these and possess all these. This is not a key area to be tested on, so I don't want to throw more light on that. But human skills is simply about how you relate with people. And I realize that this is a key topic as well under teacher relationships, so we're not going to spend much time on the human skills, how you relate to people. You have technical skills that has got to do with your how you teach, your subject mastery, and this will be covered in our lesson this week. That is professional knowledge. Then the final one, conceptual skills, how you're able to um, help people, help your learners advance intellectually, how you're able to solve problems. That it's when it comes to problems in the classroom, and this would also be covered in our teaching and learning. I think in our topics for next 2 or 3 weeks, so that would also be handled very well. Now, what is authority? Now, every teacher is a leader in the classroom. Every teacher is a leader in the school. Every teacher is a leader and therefore has an authority. He has a legal backing to his power. He has something that confers that power on him to instruct and give commands. So that is simply authority. Delegation. Now, delegation is when you assign roles to people. That is, the role or the responsibility is actually yours, but you share with someone, you pass on to someone to do the same thing. Now, sometimes teachers are encouraged to do practice delegation, or in school management, let me put it that way. In school management, delegation is accepted, and delegation should take place so that continuity can go on. Let's say I'm the headmaster of Excel International School. I, on a few occasions, should be able to delegate to, let's say, Ade, who is maybe a teacher or an assistant, so that in case I'm not there, he will be able to do the things I do. That is the need for delegation. Now, if you don't have authority, you cannot delegate. And once you have authority, you are given that responsibility. And when you delegate, you pass that responsibility to that person you've delegated onto. Next is accountability. Now, accountability is uh, your ability, or say you are accountable for something. It means that you are responsible for the right or wrong, the outcome of that thing. So the only difference here is that if you are a teacher and you have authority over, or you have a responsibility to undertake, and you should delegate the responsibility. Bear in mind, though you have delegated responsibility, yet you are still accountable for that. So example, a headmaster in a particular school had a few things to do, so he delegated part of his role to a teacher to handle that. Now, on his return, he realized things have really gone bad. Now, when this happens like this, the headmaster is still to blame because it was his actual responsibility, not the one to whom responsibility was passed on to. So, under this topic, this is just the clue for you to know. The clue only here is that whenever there is delegation, responsibility is passed. However, accountability still remains with the person who delegated. So a clear example, an exam question is: a teacher has called a class 4 teacher or class 2 teacher had pointed, let's say, Gideon or Halidu to point and name the various words, pronounce the words on a board. Thereafter, the class will respond after Halidu. Now, Halidu comes to stand before the board and starts talking. Responsibility, they respond responsibility. Dictation, dictation. Then you realize that there is someone in the class who's on page, who should know each other is. Let's say Boateng is in a class. Now, instead of Boateng to respond to Halidu would pronounce the words. The whole class would possibly respond, but Boateng will not respond. Then Halidu takes the cane, takes the pointer, then tries to hit Boateng's head with the cane, and unfortunately, it hits the eye, or it draws a mark on the face. Now, in this case, the teacher had done nothing wrong because he did not do anything to the child or to Boateng, but he is accountable for that because it was his responsibility to teach the class and use the pointer and not to pass on to the student or to the learner. So that's with it. When happening this way in a typical exam question, the question would frame the whole thing and make it so sweet, so nice that the teacher is innocent. But please, the teacher is guilty. No matter how good the story is cooked, just have this in mind. Now, leadership in a classroom. So I think we made mention of this. So you should be able to delegate roles among learners, males and females, equally. You should not engage in stereotyping. You should not be biased. You should not only appoint ladies as your prefects, as your reps. You should not only appoint males as your reps. There should be that blend. There should be no discrimination that comes to any position at all in the school or in the classroom. Now, teachers should also volunteer to work on student leadership. So, as I said earlier, help them build upon their leadership. As in, people going to run the library, they should be able to speak up in school meetings. Even as a teacher as well, should be able to speak up in school meetings to support student leadership, and also you should support your peers and colleagues in school. Now, ethical codes for teachers. Now, here the standard is saying that as a professional teacher, you must show high levels of punctuality, high levels of attendance. Now, here it has two phases as well. The two phases here are: one, as a professional teacher, you must show high attendance yourself. You should be punctual. So, here you are looking at regularity. Regularity is how often you go to school, and next is punctuality. At what time do you get to school? So you should be there early. It means you are punctual. Now, teachers should do that as well. You must instill that value in your learners. You must ensure that in your class, your people are always regular and they are punctual. When it happens that your learners are not regular and punctual, you should, as a teacher, be able to find out reasons why learners are always absent in class, why learners are always late for class. You should go even to their house to find out if there's need be. As a teacher, you should show high regard for the policies of education to the ministry and also of GES, and also those in the school you teach. So here it's very subjective. Um, Given that in your particular school you teach, these are the rules, you should comply with them. You should not try to take yourself out of it. Also, you should be able to act within the confines that defines your professional duties and responsibilities. If you know that professionally or ethically these are what the things you do, these are your roles assigned to you, you should, in all situations, be able to execute that. You should not pass on to other people or run away from your own duties. Then, ethically, you must show high regard for female and male's dignity, well-being, and their rights. So, teacher, you're also more of an advocate who speaks for male and female dignity, seek their well-being and their rights. So, all these are ethical responsibilities of a teacher. So, it's possible that in an exam situation, you are being asked that a teacher is trying to advance the right of students or the right of children in the community, and the question is like maybe this is not what the teacher was employed to do, and if you're not careful you might think that is the answer. That is not the answer. The teacher is expected to engage in all these things. He should be able to promote the welfare, the well-being, the right of learners, of students, of the children. So please bear in mind as well, it's a typical exam situation you have this question. Now, ethically, professionally, teachers should not exploit the vulnerability of learners. So you should not be charging them so much money. You know, some teachers want to use students always as a means they would amass their weekly income just to make money to cover the week, etc. So you should not exploit learners, no matter the situation, no matter the circumstance. You should not exploit learners. Say you want to conduct a test for them, then they have to pay 1 cedi. Meanwhile, you know that 1 cedi is too much, or they have to pay 5 cedi, which you know is of course very too much for them to bear, or the cost is way below that. You should not exploit learners. So, in any question where a scenario is painted, the teacher is charging students so much money for one or two things, they should come in mind that ethically, the teacher is not supposed to do that, and you should be able to base on that to identify your answer in the question. Also, should not exploit females sexually. You should not harass them. So, example, teacher goes to the class, always my dear sweetheart, my wife. Then there's scenario, the question would put that the student is really unhappy with a teacher calling him my wife, my dear sweetheart, and all those things. Please, that is sexual harassment. You should not think beyond the think extra. Just think uh, around. Yeah, it's very bad. It's sexual harassment. It's not sexual harassment. So that should not be practiced. So bear in mind that as well. This question has repeated about 4 times. So bear in mind. Now you must also show knowledge of ethical codes of GES and also of the Ministry of Education when it comes to policies on sexual harassment. So I just made mention of this and live according to their remit. Now, as a teacher, you must have your own philosophy. You must have your own brand. So now, branding is very important as a professional and ethical teacher. So you must show pride in your teaching. Now, you should even serve as an inspiration that your learners should even have the desire to also become teachers. So show pride in your profession. Teachers are sometimes noted for trying to tell students that teaching is teaching is not the best job, and etc. They should not be engaged in that. Please, it's against the standard to do that. When a teacher is doing that in a particular scenario of a question, you should know that it's a very wrong thing, and that should not be adhered to. That should not be responded. You must show pride in your profession. Be so proud of you being a teacher. and always speak good of the teaching profession. So when a teacher is found to always speaking ill of teaching profession, then it's a more of a breach of the standard which should be considered. Now this thing happens in Ghana, and I think there's a recent case about a teacher trying to paint the ministry and then GS and teaching itself black. But however, here there are two sides to it. Hey, I don't want us to go and be much more concerned about that. So let me just end it here. Now, learners are, so you must have your own branding side that your learners would want to like you, they will respect you, they would value you, they will accord you all the respect. Now, when you build that particular brand, you realize that the students will respect you. They cannot just talk to you anyhow. At the same time, too, they see you as a father, as an advisor, as a consultant to them. So when they have problems, they will come to you. So easy. The benefit comes in various folds. Then learners see teacher as a role model regardless of gender. So your learners, whether male or female, they should be able to take you as their role model, irrespective of that. That's the brand you should bring. Now you should express your own philosophies of what it takes to be a teacher. So your personal core values, you should be able to express them every day in your life, in your teaching, etc. Now, teacher engagement. So, as a professional teacher, you must be engaged in school meetings. You must attend school meetings. If there's need for you to help organize school meetings, you are to help organize meetings among PTA, school management committee, that is the SMC, and wherever you go, you should be able to speak, talk. Remember, we have said you are an advocate for the rights of learners or your students. So you keep in mind always have a chance to talk about the need for girl child education. Please, the standard is not trying to be favoritism kind of. But what the standard is saying is that as a teacher, you must be able to advance girl child education so much. Throughout the standard, you see girl child, girl child, girl child. Not that we neglect male child education, but there's a need for the country to promote girl child education. So must talk about the need for girl child education wherever I have the chance to do so. So that is also a mandate of a teacher. Now, you must also know about the local area where you are practicing. So let's say this time around, Millicent Abla has been posted to say of Anchor MAGHS. You must be able to know the local area where you stay. So sometimes just another to pay homage to the traditional elders or the chief of the very place. You must be able to be involved. Let me put it that way. So you must be involved in the community. There's a topic we'll be looking at that is called school community relationship or school community climate, which throws extra light on that. Also, as you engage in the community, the events should also be involved in their festivals, their faith activities, and all local events except political activities. So you can engage in any of these, but except political activities. That is, you should not be ravaging, campaigning, neglecting your work, and supporting, let's say, a particular political party, or be inclined politically to any of the elders or the chief of the community. That is wrong. However, when you engage in the community's practices, the festivals, the activities generally, is said to be a fair thing that is promoted. And even based on that, you can be awarded. There's a question on that, you'll be looking at that very soon. Then you should also encourage parents to support their children's education. So children in the education. So sometimes if they realize a student is not doing so well, you should be able to call the parent at least, know what is going on, help them to also help their learners for them to learn. That's what we expect of you. Now, before we wrap up, teachers should always be able to act as an agent of change. So, as a teacher or as the school is in a sub community inside a bigger community, there are several things that the school should have the knowledge pass to the community so that there will be a change in the world we live in. So, as a teacher, your work one is not only to be a teacher facilitating learning, but also as an agent of change in the school and the wider community. So, you should be able to promote tolerance and inclusion of all learners, and you prevent intolerance. You should as well be able to challenge traditional gender roles. traditionally our community is more patriarchal. We should be able to challenge these gender roles and contribute as an agent of change where there is now equality everywhere. We should also engage in initiatives that bring about improvement in schools. So you should not only be concerned with your classroom you're teaching, but if the school doesn't have latrines, toilet facilities, clean water, you see, earlier we said you're an advocate. You should be able to speak about all these things and ensure there's improvement in the school you are in. Don't only be concerned about my back class, my child in that's all. That is very bad. We should always follow up with people who are absent. Then support parents to assist in their child's homework. Also provide support to vulnerable students. That is, if you can. These are things the standard is actually expecting of you. And in order to assess you, the standard will test you on everything that it is saying. So, you should understand the role that education plays in the lives of the community. Be engaged in actually that bring up. We have said that already. So, the final topic then we end the lesson is school and community climate. Now, from the diagram you see, you realize that what we're simply trying to say is that there is a larger community, the bigger one, and there's a smaller one. Now, the school is itself a community because in the school there are people from various culture, various backgrounds, and they have come to meet. So the school forms a community on its own. Bear in mind, the school has formed a community, has their own culture. Every school has their culture, their norms, their practices. But the school is a community within a bigger community. So the bigger community is the larger one you see, and the school is the smaller community that you see. Now, when it happens that there are two communities in play, one thing that is very common is that there will be conflict, there will be misunderstanding, there will be disagreements among the various communities. Now, let me break this down simply. When we say school community climate, we are looking at what relationship exists between the school and the community. What rapport exists between the school and the community. When we say the school, we're not looking at about a building. When we say school, we're looking at the teacher, the students, the headmaster, and all the staff within the school. When we look at the community, we're not looking at the community as the land that is there. Community as the parents, as the chief, as the elders, as the people in opinion leaders, etc. in the community. So, climate here it tells about the relationship, the quality of the relationship. Now, in the exam, most of your questions will be about this. So let me talk very slowly for you to get a context very well. Now, various scenarios can be painted, and it will tell that someone in the school and someone in the community are not at peace. Please, in a question like this, you are supposed to choose an answer that will ensure peace between the school and the community. A clear example is Madam Eunice is a class 3 teacher in a particular school, and she happened to cane or happened to punish one student. Let's say Saba. So Madam Eunice punished Saba in class, and let's say Saba went home to report to the parents, and the parents got very vexed. They got very irritated, and they came to the school with all their anger, tried to rebel against the teacher who had punished their ward. Now, when it happens this way, it means that the question is trying to talk about the fact that there is a conflict between the school and the community. What we expected to do, or what we expected to choose as an answer, is one that would ensure that there is peace in the school. There is peace between the teacher and the parent. So, it is possible that the question would paint the situation as though the teacher is right, and of course, the teacher may be right. Yet, the parent is coming with all anger. What should you do? Sometimes, the teacher is being insulted. Should he also insult back? The question could possibly say, the teacher can maybe beat the parents if he thinks he's stronger than them, insult them back, or once he sees them coming to the school with the anger, the teacher should meet the parents and talk to them on the way to avoid embarrassment or disgrace. Please, that is wrong. When parents are infuriated, they are vexed, they are annoyed, they are angry, you should not meet them one on one, because anything can happen. It may result in a fight or exchange of blows. So that is wrong when it happens to see that in the question. As well, you should not insult them or even fight them. So even if they are insulting you, ethically, professionally, you are a professional teacher and you are not supposed to respond or insult them back. So just have that in mind. If the need be, you may allow them come, maybe get to the school in the staff common room. Any teacher or the head would address them, and then the whole issue will solve, rather than you trying to meet them on the road, because there it might not be safe. Not only about this very scenario, so you can think of any scenario at all where there is a conflict between the school and the community. Example, a child has been posted to an Islamic school, and they just believe that the instructional hours he has is not enough for him to complete the syllabus. You therefore want to teach or meet the students Friday after 12 o'clock. Now you know that the culture of the community, the school you are teaching in, does not permit lessons after 12 on Friday. And that is why you want to fix your lessons. Now when it happens this way, there's a challenge, because there is a conflict between the school and the community. So the community now becomes the Islamic religion, and then the school becomes the teacher who wants to teach during that period. So please, we have said that all the time, the answer should be one that would ensure peace. So once you know you're an Islamic school, you should know what you should know. You should know what you do, not to go beyond what is the norm over what's the culture. In the same regard, let's say you are in an Adventist school, you're not supposed to attend Saturday class. You should not organize them. If the only rule is that you should not do that. Bear in mind, we said ethically and professionally, you must be able to comply with all the rules of GES, the ministry, and also the school in which you teach. So in all these scenarios, you can think of many of them. Any of them that has got to do with a teacher against a student, a teacher against a parent, a teacher against a community member, any other thing. So it is your duty to ensure peace and growth at all times. The school and the community must work together to achieve the goal of both communities. So typical example situations would create a scenario where teacher values against community. So a child's own values against the community, that should not be responded to or held to. Do what will bring peace, not what your values are. Teacher and parents misunderstanding. Please do not try your very possible best not to have come into fights or misunderstandings with parents. Bad practices of the community against the school, etc. All these are ways in which the conflict. So that is the end of today's class. I'm sure you love it and you have a good idea about how questions are going to be like now. There are a few questions. A circuit supervisor was asked by his district director to give a talk at a workshop for teachers on why teachers need to engage in lifelong learning. Which of the following is likely to advance strongly his presentation? So it's simply trying to ask what are the importance of lifelong learning. So does it encourage learners to study hard? No, it's about teachers. Does it enhance subject mastery? That is good though. Does it improve practice? That is correct. Does it make teachers active? That is also good though. So the answer is between B and C. The right answer is C. Lifelong learning will improve your practice. Now, another question. Two teachers from different colleges of education were recruited to teach in a school in the same year. 3 years later, both decided to go for further studies at the university. That is, they want to advance themselves. That is a good thing. However, the district director, upon consultation with the headmaster, denied them the study leave with pay. And we know that when teacher is supposed to further his education, is a good thing. However, they are being denied of study leave with pay. Hey, why? What's up? So the question is now asking, which of the following is most likely to be the reason for the director's action? A. Majority of the female teachers are on maternity leave, hence they needed to stay back and teach. This makes sense, kind of, or it makes sense. So it makes sense, but that's not the answer. B. They just refused to attend school-based professional development sessions. That is, the teacher does not attend CPDs in service training, so he's been denied of that. That could also make sense. Of course, when you think of it personally, you could know that won't buy in service training, all person was I want to audition also. Now in service training, you want one. You see, personally, you think of that. C. Teacher refused to heed to the director's call. Because the director called the teacher could not respond and doesn't want to doesn't want to respond to the call. So they have a personal grudge, kind of. So when you think of this, it makes some sort of sense. And D is saying they just short period of mandatory service. So now A, B, and C all make some good sense. A, B, and D all make good sense, except C. However, when you have A, B, and D in a given question, ask yourself how many years I just said. Now, the standard is saying that a teacher should or can apply for further studies after 3 years. But per the wording here, it is 3 years later and not after 3 years. So the right answer is the teacher has served not up to 4 years and therefore he's not really required to do so. Now, on a good case, if there are teachers on maternity leave, the headmaster can file for them to recruit more teachers in the school, so that's not a problem. This it's good, but should not be a reason why he's denying the chance to further study. Now, HR assigns roles to both male and female learners equally, such as classroom board, monitor, etc. What kind of quality is HR instilling in the students? So he has appointed rules. What quality is he instilling? What quality is he putting in them? Is it classroom rules, delegative rules, democratic rules, leadership rules, answer leadership rules? However, if I assume the question was, what kind of quality is the teacher practicing? Then it could be delegative. C. Delegation is very important in school management because A. It improves or it brings about school improvement, not bad. Ensures continuity in management, good. Gives full power to others to manage the school, full power, not really, not full power, so no. Harmonize school programs, there is no link between that. So the right answer is B. Now, a teacher who was posted to basic school organized PTA meeting for the first time, but no parents turned up. His investigation revealed that there was a poor relationship between the school and the community. Which of the following is most likely to have strained the relationship between the school and community? So, teacher knows that offer PTA meeting, parent BNC on A. The community gets too involved in the school's activities. But if the community involved in the school activity, I think then there will be that collaboration. That's a good thing. So I don't think that's the answer. The community uses the school classrooms and playing fields. So if the community is using the school's facilities, I think then the rapport should be good. So that shouldn't be a problem. The school gets too involved in the community activities, and I think that should also be a problem. But D, the school uses the children for income generating activities. When it happens this way, of course, the community will board against the school. Parents will not like it. What the woman a bisca, what the woman that is, your goal is not really on the students' learning, brother. What you make out of it. So, of course, when the parents will have the idea when they come to you for the meeting, it's all going to be about and how you're going to make money from the students. So they will not respond to that. So the right answer is D. Now, all the following show that HR is demonstrating high level of leadership roles in the community of practice, except all the following show HR is demonstrating high levels of leadership roles in their community of practice, except okay. So leadership role in the community of practice. Underline where this community of practice. So 1. Engage in collegial discussion during instructional hours. So during the time for teaching, he and his colleagues are talking. That is bad. Sensitizing parents on the need to educate their world. That is fantastic. That is good. Serving as a role model. That is good. Showing sensitivity to gender issues. That is good. So all the following show the church demonstrating high level leadership roles in the growth of practice, except, sorry, I'm going so fast. Our time is almost up. So the right answer is not B. Pardon me for that. So please pardon me for that. The right answer is A. 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 That's the right answer. Please, I think it was an error. So which all the following show the church showing high level leadership roles in a community of practice, except, so mean that all the following are right except one. So the one that is not right is to engage in collegial discussions while instructions are ongoing. So please, the answer is A. Answer A. Answer is A, please. Answer is A, not B. Please forgive me for that. Alright, so there are quite a number of questions that we have in there. And let me take off the camera. Now I can go all of them. A basic school teacher is to be awarded a prize by the chief and community members for her modesty and dedication to the work in the community, which improved school community relationship. Which one of the following behavior would be the community which one of the following behavior would the committee find difficult to commend the teacher for? So the committee wants to award the teacher. What would be the reason why they are doing so? So all the following would be except one of them. Now the teacher goes to school early to teach. That is good. They can award him based on that. He's a political liaison officer for the chief. No, should not do that. Can do everything except engage in political activities. He has keen interest in the cultural activity of the community. That's fine. Takes part in Sunday school. That's a faith activity. So the only wrong answer is what? B. So the answer is B. B is correct. Now, I'll attach the PDF to it so that you will be able to access the other lessons at really gone. The teacher often addresses one of the female students in this class as "Sweetie, my dear." The student continues to express her displeasure about the teacher's conduct, but to no avail. The conduct of the teacher tantamounts to A. Gender bias, B. Sexual fever, sexual harassment, sexual assault. You should not be told. Now, when handling learners in a class, the teacher realizes that a particular learner is usually restless. So the child is seen to be restless, does not cooperate, and is slow in learning the concept. The teacher decided to refer the child for proper diagnosis to know what the problem is. Which of the following professionals outside the school is most appropriate for the teacher to refer the learner to? Now, let's get this very clear. The child is seen to be restless, does not cooperate, also slow in learning. The child needs diagnosis. Which of the following professionals outside the school? So I said earlier the wording is very important. Outside the school. You're looking for a professional, but outside the school. So professional outside the school would be the psychologist. Now, even that, the question was, which of the following professionals within the school? So assume it is not this, but it is within. The question says within the school. So it is within the school, then it should be the guidance coordinator, the guidance and counseling coordinator. So here are the two different scenarios. If it is outside the school, psychologist; inside the school, the guidance coordinator. Alright, so trial questions. So you can pause, then you answer the you pause, you answer, you pause here, answer, pause, then you answer the question. Then here are your answers. Thank you so much for today. I'm so grateful for you to have observed for lesson for an hour, and I'll drop the PDF to the page as well as the standards, the booklet, so you can just go through at your own free time. Thank you very much.